Alright, we're back with episode 3 of the Movie Manual. I'm Viet, joined by Bryan. We're here to break down You've Got Mail.
You've Got Mail.
Man, lots to unpack here. It was
it took a turn for us.
I thought it was just going to be like very vanilla, like okay, we get it, good, all right. No, I think we're onto something a little bit more subversive here. I think this was actually
it ended up being a lot more fun.
Very quietly dark
for us.
All right, so let's start off. Let's hook the people up with a synopsis, Bryan.
So, small shop owner going against a big-time Barnes & Noble type bookstore, new on the block, and it's a kind of a social commentary at the time about what's going on in New York City, where what makes New York City charming are these different streets and small local, shops that kind of make up this greater whole. And I think one of the lines that stuck out to me was when she talks about it being unrecognizable, coming up from the subway, seeing all these big box stores and being unrecognizable. So you've got small versus, big, which is like, it's not as simple as like this, like capitalism bad, but like basically shop small, like relationships matter. These things are important as opposed to cutting the dollar out. We're seeing it again now with Amazon. But anyway, back to the movie. So it opens with them actually already in a relationship. Online, talking back and forth, which I, didn't remember that. But they are in the middle of it, sort of weirdly. Their spouses are like not their significant others. They're kind of sneaking around and doing it. So it was kind of even known then that it wasn't a good thing to be like carrying on this emotional relationship with someone else. They just kind of dig into their lives. There is a couple chance meetings where they don't know who each other is, and I think he does know who she is. He walks into her shop on a day he's spending with some family, but wants to keep it to himself that he doesn't want to reveal who he is because he knows immediately she wouldn't like him. He's kind of taken by her a little bit. I think he likes her and he thinks she's nice, but doesn't want to ruin her day or her experience. Right. Then they kind of why am I blanking? They're carrying on this relationship online, obviously. So he has this contentious relationship with this person in real life, but he's also got this person online who they're both building up and becoming like really enamored with and enchanted with, and that kind of continues, and they agree to meet. He kind of like takes the next step and decides I want to meet, and she isn't really sure about that, and then some amount of time passes. Don't really get too specific about that in the movie, but time passes, and eventually they do agree to meet, and he shows up with his friend Dave Chapelle, actually. Played by Dave Chapelle. And they find out it's the small shop owner that he's been falling in love with, which I guess, like, looking back, we kind of knew that was the big, turn or whatever. And he doesn't know how to play it. So originally he's going to just, like, run away, like, stand her up, but basically can't do that. Goes back into the shop, or where she's waiting for him basically, and he strikes up a conversation with her. She's obviously very upset with him because by now she knows that he's of the big box store that's coming to close her down, so they already have a contentious relationship by that point, and she just wants him out of there, and he kind of doesn't know how to play it. So he just kind of sits around. They get into a big fight, and then there's tension with them the rest of the movie, and they kind of like can't help but running into each other because his shop is there and hers is around the corner. It's the name of the shop. So their daily lives are kind of like bumping them into each other, which had been before that like near misses, to kind of show like, hey, they already, even though they're online and it's kind of like out in the world, like it is somebody you could know basically, I think. So what happens there?
So after their first meeting, he kind of trolls her. He sits down. She asks him to leave. So then he sits like in a table, like right behind her, like really close. You're right. After that they have a bunch of they kind of bump into each other a few times. They had this. What was the store? Zabar's, or I don't know how to say it. It's a pretty famous grocery store, but like she's
Zanzibar.
No, it's Zabar. Zabar's. And she kind of like ducks around, and it ends up they both end up breaking up with their significant other. She has the world's most amicable breakup with her boyfriend. They're both like, oh my gosh, we're like soulmates basically. We're so perfect for each other. I know. Okay, well, I mean, I wish you all the best. Yeah, you too. What?
See you later.
Later days. Okay. And then
he breaks up with his as well.
Yeah, after getting stuck in an elevator, she kind of goes berserk, and I think he kind of realizes that's she starts showing a little bit more of her true colors, and he's kind of realizing that, like, well, there's not really much else. She's just kind of always.
I think he's finally faced with it, because I think he's kind of like, they show her not to be a attractive character at all at any point in the movie.
Yeah.
I think he's just forced to face it. He's like stuck in a box with her,
right.
And he gets to see it, because normally he has so many other things to worry about. He's running this company. He's like falling in love online. He's got this like new person in his life. And he just kind of hasn't been dealing with her. And that's the way she even shows up in the movie. He's just kind of like around.
Right, and then she takes like this sleeping medication. So like even when they would like talk to each other in bed, she just like passed out. And so then he would go onto his laptop and start.
So he was definitely feeling emotionally available, I guess, or like she was making herself emotionally unavailable.
Right. So then he goes and lives on a boat because even when things get rough for rich white people, it's never really that bad. So he goes and lives on a boat with his dog.
A nice boat, just this side of yacht.
And then his dad also breaks up with his fiance.
Yeah.
And then has to sleep.
Also live on the boat.
On a boat like adjacent to his. Happens to be a bigger yacht. So he's on so Tom Hanks' character's on the Fox 3. His dad's on the Fox 2. We never get to see a shot of the Fox 1, which must have been just ginormous, right?
Jerry Jones money. That Jerry Jones yacht.
So yeah, that essentially sums up. So Act 1 was sort of setting up the character, setting up the dynamic of the small shop versus like the big corporate shop, and then the second act was kind of like the showdown. She takes the fight to him, kind of like.
And nothing changes.
Tries to rally the community, like, hey, save the small shops, like, come support us, and stuff like that. But, like, you know...
To no avail.
Yeah, people want their cheap books and lattes, as Tom Hanks' character.
In Act 3, that's where we depart.
It turned cable guy. It
did turn cable guy. So it's supposed to be the repair, right? They're going to patch things up, they get together, it's a rom-com from the 90s.
Yeah.
All's well that ends well.
Except here's the thing. He's known since he saw her in Act 2 when they meant to meet up. He actually showed up. He knows who she is. He knows that he put her out of business, and he knows that they've been having this correspondence for however long, longer than before we were introduced to them in the movie. She doesn't know this. And so then he comes over and brings her some daisies, which he knows she likes because of their correspondence.
He's using intel. He's using the intel he's gained from their online
correspondence.
Yeah.
Right. And then
he's gaming the system.
And then he starts kind of hanging out with her, like sort of like the best friend. So then he's catfishing her.
Well, so she's sick, and he just kind of like wills his way into her apartment. Like he's buzzed up to ask her, you know, if she's okay, and she's kind of said, "I'm sick, like go away."
Right.
And rather than like being the honorable guy and respecting her wishes, he sees another man opening the door. And just kind of falls in behind him because it's a typical New York, you know, like walk up. So he just walks in like no big deal, and she's still talking through the intercom, and then she hears a knock at the door, and it's Tom Hanks like at her door. And rather than again telling him to go away and calling the police like she should have, she starts tidying up and like trying to make herself presentable to like let him in.
Oh, and you know how like we were saying like Dave Chapelle didn't show up in the third act?
Yeah,
he was still too busy trying to show that dude his ID to get into that building.
No way Dave Chapelle gets into that building if Tom Hanks' character is played by Dave Chapelle. But I think what happens after that? Sorry.
Oh, so he essentially he uses intel. He's catfishing her. It gets really, really weird because he's talking to her about this guy who's him, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, what a silly guy! I can't believe you said that. That's so corny." And she's like, "Oh, it's sweet." He was like, "Oh, right." It's super sweet. Then he writes more stuff like that because she just told him it was sweet. He's catfishing her, and he's the shoulder to cry on. So like he gets to say this stuff to her, and if it works, then he's like the friend right there in real life for her to be like, oh, I really didn't like that he said that. But then also
he gets the win. That's a true win-win.
It was weird, and so then it started getting to where we were like, how does this wrap up? Because now it's getting really creepy. I thought like the scene now. If this is anything like real life, has to be her going, wait, it was you the entire time? Get out of here!
How could you do this?
Get out of here! You creep credits. Done. Movie over. Instead, they show up at the end to finally meet, and he shows up and he's just like,
"It's me. It was me the whole time." And she's like, "It was you the whole time."
And he's just like, oh, he's like, I mean, it's like. I know.
There was a moment. So there was a key moment when we figured out that Tom Hanks was not actually a love interest, and he was actually a psycho serial murderer. What was that moment?
He eats hard pretzels as a snack. Giant hard pretzels. A bag of them. Shout out to my wife. She pointed out. We're like, no, this dude is a psycho. He's a psycho.
Who likes hard pretzels? As like a bag of hard pretzels.
I'm sorry. I mean, and I think that's more egregious than catfishing somebody. Like it's like eating hard pretzels, catfishing. I mean, it's all looking pretty bad.
It's why you wouldn't meet somebody on the internet, honestly.
Right. Pretty early on, and it's really funny because they were like, "Oh, you wouldn't understand. We met on the internet." And it's like, it's so funny how times have changed. Because now it's like, wait, you met someone in real life? How?
It's more acceptable to meet somebody on Tinder than it is to meet at a bar.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
Or get set up. So, we're going to talk about that. That's where we're taking this thing tonight.
So this was it was weird. It was very weird. I thought that dynamic and how they were going to play it, because I didn't feel like they resolved it at all.
No.
It was just this character that Meg Ryan played. She just felt like she had no agency. It was just everything happened to her. She was in this thing, or even when she was being broken up with, it was like she's already checked out of it, but she didn't have the satisfaction of getting to tell the guy off, anything. It was just sort of amicable, but he was first to the punch, so she was just kind of like
she doesn't get to be mad about like this man like shutting her business down and her livelihood. Like, what is she going to go do? She ends up thanking him for shutting down her business because now she can maybe write.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was actually something that I brought up in the intro that was lost. But I was saying that I saw something. It was online that said that You've Got Mail was a little 1984-ish.
Okay.
And it was a little bit of a statement on fascism. And the fact
that Orwellian?
Yeah. And the fact that it was creepy at the end is they're not saying the movie makers did it intentionally. I don't think they did. I think they actually thought that was a cute way to end it. Oh my gosh, it was the guy that put me out of business and has been my friend for like the past few months. That's the other thing about this movie, was this relationship was developed over a long period of time. We saw passings of seasons. I think I saw like doing some quick research, but they tried to do a good job of showing the passage of time in the background. So there was a character that actually got pregnant, and then and then like by the end of it, someone was giving her a cake that said it's a girl.
Oh man!
So, like, and all of this was happening in the background. So a lot of time passed. Mm-hmm. Which just makes it even creepier, because that means that this guy would go talk to her, go back and like write this stuff after having a conversation, and so the guy that was comparing the movie to 1984 was saying that that's kind of what 1984, what Big Brother is like, right? It's not enough that like it beats you down, like it wins. Right? Yeah. The big business, Fox Books,
put it out of business.
It wasn't enough for that to happen. They also had to manipulate you, and at the end, you had to thank Big Brother. You had to be like, thanks for giving me the opportunity to write. I do have a lot of free time now that I'm unemployed. What a favor!
Hashtag learn to code.
What a favor! and that was kind of thing. They in 1984 they tortured the guy. The state tortured him until the end he was brainwashed and going like, oh, I love this state.
Yeah.
I love the state. I love Big Brother. So yeah, and now having watched it, it's oddly I could see some of those points playing out. It was very, gosh, I just don't. What an odd movie.
Margaret coming up clutch. The only way to truly end this movie on a happy note is him like reopening her store, or like as a branch of Fox.
Right.
And like, but she's just like
a children's.
She's like, you're happy you have a man now.
Yeah.
You had a career and a business of your own, and we're totally fulfilled.
We stripped you of that, and not to mention that like this was a female-owned business. It was her mom. It was a big point that her mom owned this business.
She looked up to her. It was her idol.
Apparently, a pillar of the community.
Yeah, famous. It was a famous bookstore.
Right. Yeah.
You got a man now.
Yeah.
Who might want to kill you.
Congratulations. So, couple notes looking down. So, shout out to anybody that has the handle shopgirl or NY152.
Yeah, there's 0% chance you're getting the handle shopgirl. I feel like we should follow them and ask them to watch this movie.
So we watched the trailer. If you saw the
review, the reveal
episode. We watched the trailer, and I think the trailer also showed that there were, like you said when you were doing the synopsis, a lot of near misses. Mm-hmm. Not since Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals have I seen so many near misses. that was a Houston Rockets joke. It was not good. It was not good. 27 straight misses. It was bad. The Fox bookstore that the sign that they had that they put out front was so realistic, and looking at it, it did. That was what
I would have walked into that bookstore.
Yeah, apparently people tried. people were like, when is this opening? Is it open? It looks cool. And I'm like, no, it's just a set. This is just for a movie. They had to use Fox Books. They wanted initially to use Barnes and Noble, and it looked like the inside of it. They were just like,
definitely
as long as it's just a bookstore, go ahead.
Although, did Barnes and Noble just co-opted Starbucks into theirs? This one actually had their own like in-house cappuccino bar. So at any point did Barnes and Noble have their own cappuccino bar? Do we know?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think you're right.
So that was the only.
Another weird thing. This chick, and then like a statement about like how these small bookshops and these small businesses are the bedrock of this community. Walks past like 3 mom and pop coffee shops to get her Starbucks every morning. Way to go! Way to go!
Way to support. Way to shop small.
Way to shop small. And what are your thoughts? Did you have any general thoughts on the main actress Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan? I mean, they seem to have.
They were running it back. There was a very comfort level with them. They'd already done Sleepless in Seattle by this point, so America loved them. They were both America's sweethearts at the time. I think. Right. We were still kind of young, 15. Like we probably weren't watching. 15 or 13. Like that wasn't a movie watching time for us. Right. If anything, we were watching like Austin Powers or something. Right. So I don't think we can put into focus like how big these guys were. This was like peak Tom Hanks. I think this was just after. No, this must have been. When was this in relation to like Forrest Gump? Must have been after, right?
After.
Yeah, after Forrest Gump. After all he said. So he was already a bona fide mega star. Meg Ryan was still America's sweetheart before pre-Jen Aniston, America's sweetheart. And no, about the two characters, I think it was just you could see what they liked about each other from the online. There was that was good writing. I felt like that they actually picked at little parts of each other that brought something out in each other, and like they scratched that itch that they were looking for, and you can see it was believable that they would continue this relationship online. Right. I think, but yeah, when you pointed out just that she was walking past everything to go to her Starbucks too, it's like kind of hypocritical.
Yeah, a little hypocritical. What else is there to say about Tom Hanks? Such like an enduring career. He's been in.
He's the man. He's
great. Meg Ryan has like this. What were you saying about her?
I think what we landed on was she's approachable hot. But I was saying it.
You're saying she was approachable hot. So what I felt was she has this like a.
She's not intimidating. I think is what I said. She's very very pretty, very cute, not intimidating.
Not intimidating.
Yeah.
I felt like she has like this very unique face. Like she has like this resting, just smelled a fart face. Like just continue, like just kind of. I don't know. It's really it's really weird. And she just kind of has like this random bouts of energy. You're right. To like describe her as cute because it was almost like they're just kind of like, all right, go do your thing. Like she's very
it's like wind up here, go Meg. She really wound her
very
up.
Very animated. Like they were telling her like, hey, you need to stand up for yourself, for your business, and go and.
She's like, that's right, I do.
All right,
I do need to do that. I do.
And then all of a sudden she's like, they're like, oh, they're here to interview, and she's like in the back going like, hiya, hiya. Like, what are you doing there?
She's getting hyped, man. She's getting hyped up. She's getting hyped up.
She's getting psyched.
But yeah, so from what we remember, it was, I mean, pretty true to form. There wasn't much to, kind of knew the story, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. Another thing, and I guess this is more of like a 90s thing than like You've Got Mail thing. But man, it's like the suits around the time. They were like, oh yeah, we tailored it just right so it would like fit baggy around the arms and the waist. Thanks. Good job. Let's see here. You pointed out that a lot of Caucasians in the
all
movie.
The white people in Hollywood.
All the whites. The one. Then they had like Dave Chapelle. They were like, I mean, you talk about like token cast. That's like boom. You know, and he wasn't even really like.
He was the wisecracking black guy.
Yeah. He didn't even like let him loose though. He didn't really like.
Yeah, no, he just kind of.
And it's like they didn't even let him lean too hard into any of the stereotypes. He didn't really get to give any real advice or say.
He was kind of a parrot. Like he would finish the guy's sentences, and they were like, "Oh, there were some tropes." They were like, "Oh, yeah,
right.
That's the way business is."
And we couldn't quite figure out what his role was. It was like he was like the best friend / concierge /
assistant, maybe manager.
Right. He was right there when like Tom Hanks would say something about like, yeah, and that's how we put him out of business, and Dave Chapelle like, yeah, that is how we do it. And then when Tom Hanks is like, hey, so I'm gonna like meet this girl, and Dave Chappelle's like, yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah, that's how we meet this girl. And then later on when Tom Hanks like, and that's how I'm gonna get into this building, Dave Chappelle's like, yeah, I'm gonna chill, stay out here. I'm gonna stay out here because I'm not allowed in. Yes, back in the late 90s, it was still very racist. What we're saying is, in the late 90s, if you had a blockbuster rom-com, you want people to feel safe.
You were not worried about being woke.
Not a lot of minorities in the movie at all. So you know what are you gonna do?
90s gonna 90.
90s gonna 90s. Shout out to the amazing customer service that the bookstore had.
This guy was amazing.
He came in with 2 bags of goldfish. Did he win it? Did they go to the pet store or did they win it at the fair?
I was led to believe that they won it at the fair.
They won 2 goldfish at the fair, and the guy at the bookstore is like, oh, sir, let me hang on to that for you. Just takes his bags of fish.
I think the line is, who belongs to these goldfish? And Tommy's like, that's me. And then he's like, oh, well, I'll take care of this. And just walks away with the bags of goldfish.
Right.
That was great. That was, customer service. They were big on customer service. That was a big thing in the movie too. Is that she talked about? Well, we provide service, and we've actually like read the books we're recommending. I don't know if we've named it, but she was in a boutique like specialty store for children's books only. So there's room for her to kind of carve out that niche. But Tom Hanks kind of went out of his way. It feels like to just smush her unnecessarily.
Yeah, it could have been like. I don't know, like they have Fox and Friends, and I mean they could Fox and Kids. I mean they could have. There's
all kinds of.
They could have figured out some kind of
something
branding there, I'm sure. So that, seemed a little unnecessary. That just kind of smushed it. Especially someone that like at the end you're like, oh yeah, I genuinely cared about you all this time. Sorry for tricking you and catfishing you. Go ahead.
Are we ready for fun facts?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Fun facts. The budget for this movie, $65 million.
Okay.
Made 115, almost doubled its money.
Not bad.
Close to. $115 million. So I think that was a success. Oh, yeah. Still in the heyday of the rom-com. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Any other facts you had?
Let me see here.
You pulled up some good ones.
I think I already mentioned a couple of them. I think. One of them, the shop that they used for the. Around the corner bookstore was actually a cheese and antique shop, but they sent the owners on a vacation.
Brilliant.
To use the shop so they can film for, forever how long they had to film the scenes.
Fox and Sons was actually filmed at a Barnes and Noble.
Okay, well that's why it looked exactly like a Barnes and Noble. That's kind of funny. I guess, let's see here. So I said earlier, Meg Ryan didn't even have a computer. Yeah, so they had to give her a computer, so she had to train to use one. She actually worked at a bookstore for a few months to kind of get the hang of how to. So like she takes her craft seriously. Very.
Other people in this movie: Greg Kinnear, Dave Chapelle, Parker Posey, which we learned sister to Mary Louise Parker.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Posey Parker, but maybe not.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know.
No, because her name's Parker Posey, and the other one is Mary Louise Parker. So they are not sisters.
Oh, they look so similar.
They do. Moving on. We definitely spent the entire movie thinking they were sisters.
Yes.
So they are not.
Oops.
And then Messina? What was his first name? Chris Messina.
Yeah.
Who I know from Mindy, the Mindy Project. He's a doctor, Dr. Danny something other in that. And then you recognize him from...
He was in this HBO series called Sharp Objects.
So he's definitely the person that like has had the biggest come up of anybody from like just...
I wouldn't have recognized it. I sort of like it, like the thing where it goes like, oh, he looks kind of familiar. I want to put it together.
So in this movie he was
so young.
He was working in the children's books section, attempting to help a customer, but didn't actually know anything on the books, which was her thesis on why this bookstore wasn't going to work. So Meg Ryan is actually in Tom Hanks' store in the Fox and Sons, watching this interaction between Chris Messina, who doesn't know anything about books, with this person, and she kind of just, as a customer, chimes in and says, oh, what you're going to want to start with is this book and this book, but maybe that's a little too advanced, so start with this one by this same author, and you'll kind of go through it. And watching this entire interaction is Tom Hanks. So he kind of sees what's going on and sees, like, I think that's when he finally truly feels bad that he put her out of business, because it was just business. It wasn't intentionally personal, and she kind of makes a point of saying that when he says, it's just business, it wasn't personal. And
they
said,
kept quoting The Godfather over and over again.
To you, it wasn't personal, but to me, it was incredibly personal. Like, I'm out of business now.
Right.
So yeah, that was pretty good.
All right, I'm trying to figure out like who Heather Burns is in relationship to movie making, maybe like some kind of EP or something like that.
Okay.
But apparently, she and the director and producer Nora, what's her name? It's the same person that did Sleepless in Seattle. So they brought the team back.
Dream team back.
So I think maybe Heather Burns is on that team.
Mm-hmm.
She's a writer or something like that. She didn't want them to get together, so I found that interesting.
I'm on Heather Burns' team, whoever you are.
She said that she felt like that it was like this guy puts you out of business, even if like he didn't mean to, or like it really wasn't personal. Like for you, that's like kind of weird. And then like the fact that he was so like subversive and kind of had this misleading, relationship kind of thing going on. She felt like the woman shouldn't get together with the guy, like reward him for that kind of behavior at the end. And the argument that Nora, the director, put was that you're young, and so everything's like idealistic for you right now. So when you're young, you probably would feel like, hey, the guy kind of behaves like selfishly, and that shouldn't be rewarded. But when you get older, you kind of realize things like Barnes and Noble and Amazon taking over, that's just part of life. Tom Hanks like ending it with the girl is just kind of part of life. It's just, she thought that like that was just a more realistic you do have a connection, and it would be weird to like throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. You obviously do have a connection with this guy, and this guy has done enough things where a reasonable person would say, absolutely not, I'm not having a relationship with you. But for this woman at this point in time, and kind of like the inevitability of everything else that's happened to her, would probably go like, and maybe this is the sign, maybe this was right.
All I can say is when like Jeff Bezos buys Boston Dynamics and starts using those like robots to run the dogs that I'm running now, like we aren't going to be tight. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Did you know that the person that you've been texting back and forth with, what's AMZ 125? That was Jeff Bezos. Our buddy Bezos over there.
We've been tweeting back and forth. We've been subtweeting. Like we got to update it for the times. So we're not aiming. We're tweeting at each other these days.
Another thing that I thought I found interesting. We actually brought this up in one of our podcasts before, the dynamic between small businesses and these big box stores, and how there is a trend now, and what's in vogue are these small boutique shops that particularly specialize in something, like not necessarily like a small bookstore, but a bookstore that specializes in kids stuff. And I brought up the example, we have this really cute toy store over in Cleveland Park here in DC called All Things Wonderful, Big and Small, something like that. It's a very whimsical long name, and it sells like all of these high-end, I think they sell like Legos and normal toys too, but like maybe some high-end educational style toys and stuff like that. It's been a business forever, and I feel like a lot of millennials, when they go into business, it has to be like something really particular. Like they would have like, it's books, but only by like authors whose last name rhyme with carrot, or I don't know, like something.
But even like Etsy shops, that's what you do. You do your thing, and you max it out, and that's what people kind of want to support because they're looking for that thing. And even the big box stores are getting, like, now we're at the point where big box stores are getting
going out of business.
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
Barnes and Noble in Bethesda.
Amazon bookstore opened up in Bethesda, and Barnes and Noble had to shut down.
Right.
I mean, they're coming for you, man.
And Amazon being sort of the virtual big box store
right.
Of right now, and we'll see. I think it would be hard, and this is 2019. We'll see. Maybe someday you and I will look back at this and go like, oh, how naive we were. Of course, Amazon was destined to fail, but it looks like a model that is going to take over the world.
It's pretty undefeated.
Pretty soon.
Any parting thoughts?
Parting thoughts. We didn't bring this up earlier we didn't bring this up on the review episode, but man, not necessarily depressing, but just kind of like you talk about the inevitable passage of time. When we were young and the trailer dropped for this, I mean, clearly, I knew that when it was a big movie when it came out. I knew that the movie had come out. I didn't go watch it in theaters, nor did I care to, but I knew. What was it? I watched it. I was like, oh yes, it's two old adults. It's a romantic story about two, and it's like watching it. We're like, oh my gosh, we're their age. We're Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
age.
We're shop owners and
man. And then like to make it even worse, it was like, ooh, where's my yacht and multi-million-dollar?
Well, in your defense, your dad didn't start a multi-billion-dollar bookstore.
Well, if you're watching this, like, what are you like, man? It's like I had to slum it up as some engineer. I mean, geesh.
Yeah, my parting thoughts were, New York is incredibly clean in movies. And it is not if you ever like live in the streets of New York. Like it is really, really smelly and dirty.
That one city block was nice though.
Incredible. All kinds of bookstores too. A lot of smart people in that neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Also gentrified to the point of only the whites.
90s gonna 90.
90s gonna 90s. Okay, and one last thing.
Yeah.
On the sexist meter, compared to the last two movies, not as sexist or
not as overtly sexist. Remember, you said earlier, she had no agency. Like she was just like things were just kind of happening to her, and she kind of like was she could have been anybody. I feel like
true. And if
so it wasn't like
to the last movie we watched, Clueless, Cheryl Horowitz. I think
Cheryl
was very different. She was the
the marionette master, puppet master.
Yeah, exactly. So very, very different. That movie came out like in 95, 96.
Yeah, so we're regressing.
Right. In the futuristic age of 90, 98. And
back to the past. Future.
Right. Past. Oh my gosh. It started off with like this great like CGI, like very, very basic CGI map of like New York. Like if a student submitted that for like their high school project now, they'd get an F. Like that was like miserable. But it's funny because that's just what they had, and they played the modem sounds and stuff like that. Really, really took me back.
Okay, I have one final thought before scores.
Go for it.
It's actually about next time we do a vote. So because this movie won this time, because You've Got Mail won this time, that means on the chopping block next time is... I keep saying 10 things I hate about you because it has the number 10 in it. But How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. That means if it loses next week, like it's gone. Never to come back, never to return for a vote ever. So just get out to the polls, vote often, vote early.
Right.
I don't know you can do that. But
we are open suggestions for
Challenger.
A Challenger.
Yeah.
We're just
throw them out there.
Throw them out there.
With that, kind of in the can. Scores?
Let's do it.
In 3, 2, 1.
Bum, bada, boop. Oops. Bum, bada, boop.
A 10. A perfect 10 out of 14.
So, is that the
That's the lowest.
lowest we've gone?
I think we have 12, 12, and 10. You can look at the. They'll be. I'll tweet them. I'll tweet out the standings now that we have 3.
But it's a smiley face, but I didn't.
It was
a good movie.
It got a lot better once it turned into a creepy
horror movie.
Horror movie.
It was fantastic.
It got a lot better.
When American Psycho, I was like,
if you watch the end of this movie that way again, it's super entertaining because all these little touches and glances and like, is he gonna kill her? I can't breathe when you do that though.
he just goes up. I really thought he was gonna like vote. He just like kind of goes up, and she's like, "Wait, is it really you?" And he's like,
"You better run." Oh man, what a good movie! What a great movie!
Yeah,
that was fun.
Man, you've got mail. Nice.
You've got mail.
And one last thing, I'll always give a shout out to the soundtrack there. Pretty good. Like the greatest hits of Rom-Com.
Yeah, some Cranberries. Signed, Sealed, Delivered.
Yeah.
There was the Rockin' Robin. Anything that had to kind of tangentially do with mail. Not even tangentially, just like anything that shouted out to mail was in there.
And like a lot of things that were it was kind of like someone would say a line that was in a song, and then the song would start. That happened a few times. So, but
good stuff.
But it had been pretty good for the music because that was like a lot of big pop songs and stuff like that from different eras.
Awesome, man.
All right, guys.
Thanks for having me again.
So you guys can always catch us. You guys catch us online. You catch this guy at Baby Cardis. You can catch me at Face It Facts. You can visit us at brosbros.com. And until next time, guys.
We'll edit that out.